marketing firm?
They didn't respond.
Oh,
no.
they're not going to.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's now 6 p.m. and the May 9th meeting of the CDA will please come to order. Take roll call, please.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Don Niemer.
Here.
Alderman Weigel.
Here.
Alderman Haas.
Here.
Jerry Motter.
Here.
Mike Suter.
Here.
And Karen Gale is excused.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the April 25th meeting. Is there any additions or corrections?
I move approval.
Been moved for approval. Any
Second.
further discussion?
Second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Minutes stand approved. First item on the agenda, resolution authorizing utility easement to AT&T for underground utilities to be located at 6601 West National Avenue. Patrick?
Mr. Chair, turn this one over to Sean.
This is a proposal to place an easement off the West Mitchell Street entrance into the SONA Development, kind of the area kind of highlighted here. It would be an easement with AT&T, and the CDA is currently a part of the ownership of the parcel, along with Mandel Group has some rights in there as well. So, we recommend approval. This is a kind of a procedural thing that we need before we can sign off on, property restrictions on a
So moved.
parcel that we own.
Second.
Been so moved and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. I didn't ask for the nays because I didn't hear any. Item 3, resolution approving a purchase of the sales agreement and development agreement for sale of land between the Community Development Authority and the City of West Dallas and Markers Row QOZB-LLC. Patrick?
Mr. Chairman, tonight we're taking up the Makers Road Development Agreement. We have Bob Monner here, who represents the development entity that will be constructing the project. Just going back to this previous slide, you can see SONA in the part of, this is south of National Avenue, 66th Street, West Dallas Farmers Market. The land we're talking about is this quadrant of the former Hall Steel and other entities that were in this area. Probably brought back a name here from some history on the site, but there's 4 parcels. This is lot 4 in this general area, lot 3, lot 2, 1, and this is lot 2, which became SONA. SONA's performing quite well. This is the complementary uses of commercial that kind of is part of the grand vision that was part of the Makers Road development. So the goal, again, is to create a destination, going back to what was selected as the concept. They attract commercial uses, unique businesses. This, when I say commercial uses, this is, the idea was to attract Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and those type of entities, but something different, something more unique, entrepreneurial, and welcoming to patrons of the market and new residents of the neighborhood. You can kind of see that vision when you look at Oak in terms of a destination, bringing in new people to the neighborhood and creating a place where people can hang and be part of the community. Again, of course, part of this is the activity is to grow the tax base on the site. Overall, the Makers Road development, there's 2 parts. There's phase 1 and phase 2. Overall development budget's around $10.4 million. Tonight, the agreement will center mainly on getting phase 1 going and starting and closing on all the land relative to the project, and then lot 3 will start at a later point. The projected estimated value, assessed value is 2.4. I have the fair market in this area here based on what the city assessor has reviewed, and the projected incremental taxes on an annual basis are give or take around the $80,000 mark. It starts out south of 80,000, and then it goes up to around 84,000. So 80 is like the average and what you'll see in terms of incremental taxes from the development. Again, this is a self-financed development in terms of this is phase 1. The building permits are ready to be issued. They're in a folder, just waiting for the developer to pick them up to construct this phase. And our goal here with this agreement is that we close within 30 days. So if today's May 9th, the idea is to close by June 9th on the land, and the developer can proceed, if not sooner, on construction. Within the agreement, there are use restrictions. We'll highlight those in a little bit. There is an encroach or an encumbrance or an easement in this area. We'll talk a little bit about that in closed session, but the land is encumbered by an easement agreement. It's got a reciprocal easement agreement that covers all 4 parcels on the site. And you might recall the site was graded, stormwater put in, electric lighting, sidewalks, and it was all divvied up per parcel. So each property has an encumbrance relative to that. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. The CDA and the city's already approved a $500,000 loan to Makers Row to assist with environmental costs and the soils. So the goal here is with phase 1 is to commence construction per the developer at least by June 1st, if not sooner. And Bob Monahan will highlight that. Phase 2 is to commence construction on or before December 31st of 2023 with a completion date, again, by 2024. The dates that will be in the timeline will be around August for lot 3, and again, be completed within a year from that date for the phase for lot 3. Overall, the rents are below market. And I say below market, typically for new construction, new commercial space, you're in the 20s plus. We're in the mid-teens roughly, 15 to 16, I think, 17. It varies based on this, what's been negotiated. The use restrictions relative to zoning and what we didn't want to see if this project would mature over time and not have the unique uses in there. As we're talking about the unique food and beverage users, usually there are high turnover type of commercial uses, and then we wouldn't want to backfill it with a nail salon or check cashing or things like that are less than desirable type of uses. So we have that in the development agreement. Some of the things that are particular in the agreement that are unique are, one, the developer has requested a no cap on the MRO payments. What does that mean? So annually, in the way we did developments that are MRO, is that the tax increments that are gained annually, they might be plus or minus, depending on how the assessment is working on the property. So if there's a gain, the developer can realize that gain in terms of the increment, but it pays down the amount that we structured in terms of the pro forma and the way Eller's modeled it. This particular deal has very tight returns, and we'll talk about that in closed session. I mean, they're below market. So the developers represented that having no cap over the life of the agreement will allow, if there's an upside, that he could realize that potential, and therefore provide more of a return and help recover costs on the project. Because of the, as I mentioned before, it may be high turnover of tenants and the amount of money that each tenant's going to need for build out on the site. The second particular issue is the repurchase agreement. As I mentioned before, there's that encumbrance agreement, the reciprocal easement agreement that covers all 4 of the parcels. Lot 3 also has that encumbrance on it. So if the developer does not commence construction and we work to buy back that property at lot 3, we would have to pay that $335,000 that property is encumbered. Now, we don't have to pay it. Another developer could acquire that parcel and pay those costs. Either way, it's on the property as part of the easement to pay that cost. In the savings agreement, that's a provision in which if there's a budget savings on the project, usually we would split those savings 50-50. In this particular case, they would like to create a tenant improvement reserve account just because of the potential turnover up to $200,000. Anything over that, at the 10-year point, if that money's not spent, then that money would be split 50-50 between the authority, city, and the developer. So that's pretty much outlines the development agreement. At the end, we are getting 2 developments. You have a commercial on as I mentioned before, here on this corner, And then the goal is to build additional commercial space here on the lot 3 that would also accompany some other food and beverage uses. I'd gladly answer any questions you may have on the project. I know we've talked about this for some time. We have, I think, the backbone of a very firm agreement. And if you have any questions, then you can also ask Bob Moniff, who's here representing the developer tonight.
No question. Bob, you give Bob the floor, or
It's up to you.
you want to say anything, Bob, or?
Well, we've spent a whole lot of time on a whole lot of issues here. And I've gotten a whole lot of messages about when you're gonna build, when you're gonna build. I will tell you that as of 10:08 this morning, structural steel has arrived to the site. So if you guys approve it tonight, I would release the contractor tomorrow morning, because I'm now sitting on building materials out there trying to get this damn thing built.
Okay.
So the time has come to build.
Thank you. Any
I was gonna say,
questions?
there was nothing there yesterday when I went by.
He said this morning.
I'm a little shocked.
We're gonna
But I
hold
knew it
up
was
the
coming, I
closed
just
session.
didn't realize it was coming today, but it's seriously, we are trying to, I mean, there are so many parts and pieces of this thing. One of the biggest issues, we have met with enough people to probably fill these buildings 4 times, but it's like trying to squeeze jello. I mean, it's just, there's so many every deal is the world's most complicated deal. If you would have sat through the 2-hour meeting I had with the prospect last week, you would have pulled your hair out. Honest to God, it was just like so many nutty requests, and I just gotta build the damn thing. I got enough people already committed to go. The other stuff will fall into place, but until we get going, it's just a woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of discussion, and and it's just driving us nuts. So we are anxious to start building. We're funded, the money's in the bank. So there's nothing precluding us other than having legal ownership of the site so we can start building on it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Alderman Weigel.
One more thing, Patrick, while you have this up. How much of that is gonna be, I'm looking at the parking, I mean, how much of that is gonna be, quote, available for overflow from the farmer's market on peak days? Yeah, Sean's gonna know that.
We put the parking slide in there
Yeah.
that we've had multiple times.
And I understand, and I say peak days because there will be people, oh, yeah, I used to park here. Well, that's, what do we have,
Right, Bob?
10 peak days at the farmer's market, the way I count it?
It's generally this area, is that correct, Bob?
There's a
It's my
double aisle,
recollection.
there's a double aisle all the way down the middle of the property.
Right,
There's
all
a
that, both sides of that, off of
There's a
National,
whole-
yeah.
And there's another 15 or so parking stalls up along the streets coming into the site. And on lot, we're fully assuming that on that second phase, that 43 stalls coming in off of 66th Street, people will be parking in there.
Okay. And again, that's not dedicated to the farmer's market, it's gonna be.
It's not dedicated,
yeah.
it's open public.
It's open,
shared
it's
public
open,
parking.
open public parking.
Yeah, so I would expect like on a Saturday, that it'll be pretty damn park full.
Yeah, it should be.
On a Thursday, probably not.
No.
But as many, probably nearly as many cars as you had parked on the gravel before are gonna park right down the middle of the site now and in that adjoining parking. I think there were, I forgot how many cars we had on that gravel for a while, but it wasn't as many as people thought.
No.
But it's right there, it's right across from the farmer's market. Part of the business plan is to get people to park here, so they walk through the
past your
development
business,
and walk
yeah.
past the businesses.
Right,
So
right.
that's- So,
Yeah.
short of having someone flagging people in, I mean, we really want people to know that this is public parking.
Thank you.
Well, they should be happy to have a nice area to park and they parked in the gravel and didn't complain about that, so this should
No,
be
no.
more than
The
adequate.
bar was set pretty low. I mean, if I screw it up, I really screwed up.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll hold item 3 for closed session, and then we'll go to item 4, resolution authorizing a loan up to $200,000 to Element 84 LLC, West Dallas 84 Properties Incorporated for the build-out of commercial space at 1478 to 1482 South 84th Street and 8290 West Orchard Street. Tax key number 452071300. Patrick, you have the floor.
You might recall the last meeting, we discussed this need to build out the issue of the commercial space and building it out and preparing it for a tenant. And we talked about the financing. We've run this past finance, we've run this past Ellers, we've run this past our city attorney, and we've outlined a term sheet that got attached late this afternoon once we received it from the city attorney onto the system. So it's roughly, I want to come back to this amount here, around $200,000 at 7.25% interest. It's to, again, finish the space for the fitness studio, and then a personal guarantee from the developer and also the entity that owns the real estate, and then an origination fee of 0.5% on the property, very similar to what a bank would require. The payments, the way we have it structured, would be annually through the tax increments that come in on the property. So when before the developer receives any MRO, it would be the payment of any city debt that's on the property, and then also the payment on this loan and any principal and interest that's due and owing, and then the payments to the developer. So that is the way we have it structured. Uniquely, this is an opportunity for the city to make, for the TIF, to make some money on the funds that are coming in over the life of this. It's around 13 and a half years of amortization for the loan. And it would be completed by October 1st of 2036. Gladly answer any questions that you may have on this.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
How was the $200,000 arrived at, and if that becomes a shortfall before the project is finished, where will you get the extra money from?
So this again is for this particular area, and this is 25% or 75% of the overall project cost. So the developer is privately putting in his own equity to pay that difference. So I actually would like to amend that dollar amount to $212,000, and the reason why is the other item that's on the agenda. Diaz pass on doing that one, incorporated into this loan, and that way the bathrooms are all paid and everything's put in under one agreement into this particular project. So this would be $212,000, but that's 75% of the project cost. Developers paying the other 25%.
I'm sorry, if you get to the end of the project development, build out, and there's a shortfall, who's going to handle that?
The developer.
Thank you.
Alderman Weigel.
And if it's less, so is this an up to amount?
I mean, if the amounts, the draws requests that come in
Yeah.
are less, then we don't issue that
So,
much.
so we're only doing 75%.
Only 75% of the project
Okay.
cost.
And in the attached document, it's got it at 8%.
Oh, it should be, it's switched. It should be 7.25%.
Yeah, it's dated today. It says 8% over 10 years,
There's been
200K.
some weird things going on with review. We have it on a shared file, and then we transfer it over. I don't know.
Okay.
7.25%.
Okay.
Mr. Niemer?
Just a clarification, so is it the cap 200 or 212, or is it 75%?
What they requested was $212,000.
That's what we're
That was
approving. We're not approving
75%.
75%.
It was 75% of the project.
That's where the number came from.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And that's a solid number for him? That's the question.
That's the estimate they provided.
Okay.
I mean, we do see project overruns, every project.
No, everything
as
is
in-
now.
As in what we have here.
Yeah.
Is technically an overrun in the overall scale. So I don't think our participation should be any more than that.
You want to hold
The
it?
city's participation.
Hold it
Yes.
for closed session, or can you want
We
to?
can hold it for closed session if you wish.
Any further questions? We can hold it for closed session. If not, all right, we'll hold it for closed session. Item number 5, resolution to approve National Avenue Commercial Corridor Code Forgiveness Compliance Forgivable Loan for Fire Cycle Fitness LLC for the property located at 1478 South 84th Street, West Dallas, in the amount up to $8,500. Tax key 4520713-000.
If you did all that reading, I'd just like to have that item held.
Okay. We'll hold that one for closed session.
All right, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I have to admit,
Pass.
It's maybe because I wasn't paying attention. So items 4 and 5. Item 4 is the fire cycle fitness as well, or not, or is next door to the fire
Item
cycle?
4 is the space for fire cycle.
Okay.
Item 5 is fire cycle themselves moving into that space.
Okay.
But I want it held because that item, that cost can be incorporated into the loan
Yeah.
and not do this separate agreement. And I'll explain in close
Thank you.
session.
Yeah, and my confusion was just on the address, 1482 versus 1478. So, all right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Item 6, discussion on 67, Mr. Clark, go
When
ahead.
do you expect to bring item 5 back?
After closed session, we may not have to bring it back.
All right, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 6, discussion on 6771 West National Avenue and 6700 West Mitchell Street, tax key 4530564-003 and tax key number 4540251-004. Patrick?
Turn that one over to Sean.
If you recall, this is the CDA-owned property at the corner of 68th and National, former Kearney Trekker Manufacturing Building. We've been sort of updating you on this project monthly. There was the big development between the last meeting and this meeting. Really was the National Park Service has approved the single issue review for the proposed windows, which we've been waiting at 9 months, and sort of to the credit of the developer, going back and forth, with the National Park Service on that. They had put together a great team of, with Pierce Engineering, historic. They brought in a historic consultant, Kabbalah Washatka, and things like that. Put together about a 45-page report, and it was just approved last week. So very exciting. That was a key element because the National Park Service has to really approve everything that's tied to the project, but that was a $3.5 million piece of it. So they wanted to know that the window treatments that they're proposing could get approved as part of the historic tax credit funding source. So things continue to move ahead. The developer has the development agreement and is reviewing it. Had some discussions back and forth on parking, things like that, but just continue to flush things out. We had a meeting on the financing of the project, and we just need some more information before we can go forward with anything on it. But generally, it looks positive as far as steps moving forward. If you recall, this is just the general floor plan, which shows some event space in the red. It's majority event space, some office space, and some warehouse space. That the developer would lease the space to an event space user to utilize that space. The event space user would actually put their offices and warehousing into this area, run the event space in sort of a 50-50 split with the developer on the event space portion. And it's just additional floor plans. Happy to take any questions you may have.
Go ahead, Ms. Alderman Weigel.
Sean, so the people managing the space, the event space, are going to use it for their offices and warehouse. Is there a commitment to keep, so I see event A, event B in that slide, that both of those spaces would be programmed for event, and the warehouse, is the warehouse space in there somewhere else?
Yeah, the warehousing is generally back here. There's
Okay.
there's a loading dock off Mitchell.
Yeah,
So this
I've been
is-
in the building. I just want to make sure that it doesn't turn into, things are slow. We're going to turn that event B space into just warehousing space.
Sure. No, I think it's an important thing to, tie.
Right, we want activity there.
In any development agreement, we are always
People with their wallets coming to
tied
town.
to a project plan. So yeah, that's an important part of it. This floor plan is, they're working with the
Conceptual.
the tenant exactly. Every day, and they've said they're going to have a revised floor plan. It'll come our way. It'll look a little bit different than this, but in general, in the main corridor, the idea is that would be event space. I'm guessing. I don't know if the warehouse space is going to creep into this area a little bit. Or we'll see what it looks like, but we'll certainly come back with it when we see it.
Like I said, I just hate to turn kind of half dark there.
Right.
So.
Any other questions? All right.
So definitely a positive step forward for that project, but get there, now we have to work through, like Sean mentioned, the economics, so making sure that their pro forma works and, we're modeling a pro forma.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit further about it in closed session,
All right.
on how that would be structured.
All right, we'll go to item 7, discussion relative to SONA Development within Tax Increment District Number 15. Patrick?
That's a closed session.
All right. We'll go to number 8, consider relative report on redevelopment initiatives. Are there any questions on any regarding them? Or Patrick, you have anything to say regarding any of them?
The main one would be, there's been some in the National Avenue corridor. I understand we have a grocery tenant that's exploring the National Avenue corridor. I guess there's 2 of them, so we'll see how that plays out. 116th and Morgan. We met with a developer that had interest in that, in the site. We had some interest.
Already?
Discussions, yes. It's not gonna be an economic windfall based on what we're seeing and hearing. The site being a former landfill needs capping, and it kind of will dictate how the site will get used. As I mentioned before, the DNR probably would like to see it be condos or something else of nature, not a single family type development because of the dirt and having people dig into the dirt, things like that. So we'll continue to work on that. Right now, we're working on the wetland delineation on the parcel, so we have to get that off to, we have a consultant working on that aspect of it. We completed the geotechnical, and that's fine. And then we just have to figure out, the relocation of the DPW services that are at that site and figure out when the site could be available for development and then market it. But we've had some early discussions. It's more listening to what developers are asking, figure out then how we can market the site later. The unique thing is it is in Greenfield. It's in Greenfield School District.
Whitnall School District.
Whitnall School District, excuse me, yeah. So, those type of things will play into decisions by developers and things like that, so.
But it would be our utilities?
That'll be determined at some point.
Right, 53228 zip code, but West Dallas has the mailing address. We're invading into a zip code.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Alderman.
While we have the list up, boy, what was I gonna ask about? The hotel's on track to open in June over on 70th Street, do you know?
That was the email that I received.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
And then we don't have any other news
I
on
haven't heard
it?
anything about ribbon cutting or anything.
Well, or the rest of the properties?
Correct.
Okay.
The other thing is, I'm trying to think here, we have met with the developer for 92nd in Greenfield. Nothing really to report on that project as of yet. In the Highway 100 corridor, we keep monitoring on the former Burger King, 106th and Greenfield, and Burger King bought that property back. So they own and control, they had a land lease, they've owned they had the building, so now they own the land underneath, and they own the parking lot next door, so they control the whole site. And then they were exploring putting one of their different franchises within that space. So that may come to fruition, so we'll see. That's the rumor.
Well, they closed 400 of their 6,000 stores this week, I think, or. Yeah.
Burger King?
Burger King's.
But then they have another entity they have 2 other entities under that same umbrella
Oh.
that they own, national franchises. You can look this up. Burger King owns Popeyes. Burger King also, I believe, owns Tim Hortons.
Oh.
It was the
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
Which I think the closest one is Detroit. It's a former hockey player. It's like I understand, like a Dunkin' Donuts type of donut coffee type
Yeah.
establishment, so.
I believe that Burger King on Highway 100 is closed.
I thought I seen a sign that said it was open under new management.
One in front of Target.
Target for the
Oh,
Target
yeah.
there.
Up in Cleveland? Oh.
There have been people interested in the Burger King site,
No.
whether it's the drive-up coffee shops or other strip mall developers. Those have been out there. It's just that the ownership and working through. Burger King does just, in their LOI do put restrictions on the land. So that also prohibits what type of uses can go there. Like other burger places.
Yeah.
And what about the motor casting site? They're still over there chewing away on it.
Demolition.
Yeah, they're still chewing away on it.
And
Yeah.
we continue to present it to different developers as a site. We've had some discussions, nothing solid yet.
Okay.
We had one follow-up back today, coming in. We have two proposals for a site coming up that we believe we'll be looking at, so.
All right, any further questions regarding any of those items? All right, then we will read the agenda for a closed session. For items 3 to 7, the committee may convene in closed session pertinent to the provisions of section 19.85/1/E of the state statutes for the purpose of deliberating, investing of public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This committee may convene in open sessions after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of its agenda. Can I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. Would you take roll call, please?
Wayne Clark,
Want me to call you?